Hi, I'm Emily and welcome to this tutorial where I'll be showing you how to create an animated Villi environment in Maya 2017 using the sparkly new Mesh toolset. So I've created some Villi before using a great tutorial that I'll put a link to in the description below which used paint effects. When I had a look at Mesh, I just thought, hey, this would be a great way to create a similar effect. So first thing I'm going to do is create a plane. Now we will make a polygon cube and scale it up on the y-axis. In the channel box, we want to go down to input menu and change the subdivision level to around 5 or 6. This is in the subdivision height. I'm going to go for 6. For the sake of this tutorial, making this look a little bit clearer, I'm just going to assign a pink lambert to our object so you can see it a bit more clearly. For the animation, we want to use a bend deformer. You can find this in the Motion Graphics tab or by going to Deform, Nonlinear and Bend. To see the deformer, we need to go into wireframe view by clicking 4 on the keyboard. In the channel box, go to Inputs, Bend 1, and here we can see the tools we need to start animating. So I'm setting the low bound to 0 so the bottom of our object is not influenced by the deformer. I'm just going to move the deformer down a bit and increase the high bound value. Now for some keyframes. Set the time slider to frame 1. I'm going back to shaded display by clicking 5 so we can see this all a bit better. The key tool is up in the animations tab. Alternatively, you can right click the curvature value in the channel box and select key selected. So we are keying frames 1 at curvature 0, frame 25 at curvature 35, frame 50 at 0, frame 75 at -35, and frame 100 at 0. If you play it back, it should look like this. Now to make this look a bit more natural, we need to smooth out the shape by going to Mesh and Smooth. I'm going to keep the divisions at 2. It's a good idea here to alter the shape a little to make it look slightly more interesting. So right-clicking the mesh and entering vertex mode, then opening up the tool settings by double-clicking the selection arrow. I like to keep these settings handy, so I'm going to move it over here. Enabling soft select and adjusting the fall-off radius, we can slightly reduce the midsection. This is my choice of alteration. You might want to make this a bit fatter, the top part a bit larger or smaller, just have fun with it. Now select the mesh and go to the Mesh tab and click on this icon, which is the Mesh Waiter. This will create a mesh network. Now this is where things are going to get fun. You can see lots of different options here. For now we're going to go up into Distribute up here at the top and change the distribution group to Grid. And pow, there you go. We want to close up the linear options and go down to the grid options. You can choose how many duplicates of this object you would like in the grid, and also the distance between them all here. Once you are happy with what you have so far, go back up to the main Mesh tab in the Attribute Editor and add a time node. Don't worry if you're still not happy with the distribution, you can change the values at any stage. It's more likely that you're going to want to play with all these settings again later on. Here we want to put in the animation start and end value. We know from earlier that we have 100 frames of animation in total, so the animation start is 1 and the animation end is 100. Now this animation will keep going on loop. With this in place, we can now stagger this animation. I have selected random stagger here as well. I'm going to initially change the stagger frames value to 20. And there you go, it's pretty self-explanatory what it just did there. Already this is looking a little bit more natural. There are other sliders down here that you can play with until you get an effect that you like. If we look at it from the top, you can see that they've actually been distributed a bit too evenly. In order to deal with this, we can go back to the Mesh Weighter and select Random, which does exactly what it says on the tin, but just a little bit too well here. Ignore me here, I tried this out earlier and I've actually disabled this one. So in the right random tab, let's put these values back to 0 to begin with. You can play around with the positioning. The Y position is good here as it makes some of the villi look slightly smaller or taller than others by moving them up or down. So I played around for this a bit and I'm happy enough to go ahead and add some lighting and materials. So I have added a sky dome light by going up to the Arnold tab, lighting and then sky dome. The HDR image I've used for this I use a lot. I will add a link to where to download this file below. The person who made it has done a great job. And this is going to provide our scene with some great lights and reflections. Now I'm adding some additional lights to the scene and previewing the lights by pressing 7 on the keyboard. Now let's have a look at this by rendering out this frame. You can play for ages with the lighting, there are tons of tutorials online. With the new Arnold renderer, the only thing you need to be aware of is that you will need to put the intensity up a bit higher on the lights than you would have in Mental Ray. Now to put some material on our villi, right click and assign new material. Let's choose AI Skin under the Arnold menu. There are lots of different ways that you can approach materials. Because it's new and exciting, I'm going to stick with the AI skin. Because this material works with subsurface scattering, we need to go to the render settings and up the SSS samples. I haven't had a lot of time to really dig deeper into the render settings in Arnold yet, so I'm just guessing for now. Just as it is, it gives you a lovely skin colour. I'm going to increase the sheen weight a bit and play around with the colours. I'll go back and work on this a little bit further later. Working in IPR renderer is best for this. I'm working on my laptop right now, as that's all I have, and the Arnold renderer is pretty fast at updating. I know it's meant to be a lot better with a much better computer and the process is meant to be very quick and impressive. So I'm just going to cut up this video a little bit so you're not waiting around as long as I am. Let's take a full render now so I can get a good idea of what we're looking at. Now is a good time to change the colour of the plane. So, camera time. Add a new camera to the scene by going to the Renderer tab and clicking Create Camera button. The easiest way to move this camera is to go to Panels, Perspective, and Camera 1. Now I'm lost in Villi. Turn on the resolution gate and the gate mask to see the size of your render area. Let's go out into the camera settings and add some depth of field. We need to go down to the Arnold settings. I'm going to keep it as a perspective camera and check the Enable DOF box. To help with this, turn on the object details in the display by going to Display, Heads Up Display, and clicking Object Display. Whilst looking through the camera, click on the object. In the object details, you can see that my object distance from the camera is 21.286. Now if we go back to the camera DOF settings, we can put this into the focus distance value. I'm going to initially put the aperture size as 0.25 and the aperture blades at 7. Hit render and stop render. Now the problem here is that the distance where the camera takes the measurement from is from the centre of the object, and that's not what we want. So we can see that if we start reducing this number, the focus is slowly getting closer. This is taking a while on IPR and it's not giving me a very accurate impression of the image. This is completely because of my laptop and not the renderer itself. So I'm going to change aperture size to 0.95. You can play around with this for ages, but for the sake of this tutorial I'm going to try and keep this quick. You've held on for over 10 minutes. Let's not make it over 15 minutes. I'm going to add some more Villi. That's the great part, it's so easy to change your mind now and just add more in the Distribute tab in the Mesh network. Played around with materials to get this effect, and here's a quick shot of how I did it. If you want to take notes on it, feel free to click pause and write it all down. With the materials, you might want to add a blend, you might want to add a bump map onto it, make it shiny, play with some ramp settings. You can go absolutely wild with how it looks. For this, I'm just wanting to give you a general overview of using Mesh to create the animation itself. So that's about it. I hope that was useful and thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel to see some more medically, sciencey, 3D, 2D, illustration-y, artsy tutorials and stuff like that.